You can work through your struggles better if you know the end outcome.
Mm-hmm. Good. So, well, thank you. And one thing that I want to touch on that you brought up is the fact that you started contemplating suicide at the age of 10. I started at the age of 11. I never actually attempted. The closest I ever came to attempting would have been back in 99 when basically I was homeless, and my church, in order to help me out, that they actually converted a storage room into a little studio, because I was doing so much to help the church itself, and so that they figured that's the least they could do for me, and as I was alone in that room, I was at the time I was volunteering to teach English to refugees, and here these refugees are coming from these countries, war-torn countries with nothing, were in better condition than I was, and so I actually had this thought that, well, okay, I can't take my own life until after Vacation Bible School, because I had already committed to doing that, and is at that point I really woke up to the reality of that, the insanity of that, and that's a whole nother long story. I'm not one to go completely into that route, but just bringing up this topic with other autistics, I figure, and this isn't an official survey, but I figure that about a quarter of all autistics of our generation were contemplating suicide before they became teenagers. That doesn't include those who got suicidal as teenagers or in high school. And the youngest that I know of attempted at the age of 12. Okay, and how old were you when you attempted?
Well, I contemplated at the age of 10.
Yeah.
I probably was about 16 when I tried to slice my wrist. And that being said, I don't mean this, I really don't mean it to sound critical of my family or whatever. In many ways, my parents are kind of like my heroes, because they were struggling the best they could against something they did not understand.
Yeah, and that's very important. That's one thing that he and I are in complete agreement on, and not every autistic from our generation is capable of understanding that their parents and teachers didn't have the information that they needed, and so yes, they made mistakes, but they did the best that they could, and we wish that all the autistics of our generation could accept that, but unfortunately a lot can't, and it is completely self-defeating, to go into that mindset. So anyway, anything else? Okay. Okay, so Philip or John, would you like to go next?
I'll go, but I'm...
Okay, no problem. Okay, so you're going to speak off camera. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, in my case, actually, I grew up in a very small town out in the middle of the Midwest, middle of Iowa, and actually, as far as from day one, I had educational problems. I failed kindergarten, and that kind of set up everything first, because right away after that, I was kind of known as the kindergarten type. You get the idea. Mm-hmm. So that's where I had dyslexia at the time. So that they got right. They figured that out. So they got me help with dyslexia.
Now there's different forms of dyslexia. What form did your dyslexia take?
Reversal problems, like when I was spelling, I would have letters misspelled, and
okay.
So they did figure that out, but what actually had happened, in fact, it was actually before kindergarten. Actually, in my case, it all started off when I was in preschool. They, when we were getting done with preschool, they had to give all the kids this test, and it was kind of, it was kind of an intelligence test, and it was basically the design of this test was basically to determine if you were ready to go to kindergarten or not. Well, anyway, it was with me, they got a mixed bag of results, because okay, on one hand they had the question for the smart kids. Okay, this, mind you, they were asking a 5-year-old kid, what makes the day day and what makes the night night. And I guess I'm not an educational specialist, but I guess a 5-year-old is not supposed to know that. But when they asked me that question, they said, well, what makes the day day and what makes the night night? I said, well, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And they were like shocked. So on one hand, they're like, okay, this kid is a special kid. He's brilliant and bright. But then they asked me the other question, which was more of a social development question. What color are bananas? And I said, pink. And then right away they were writing one. Okay. In fact, they were quite confused at this point. Okay, we don't understand this here. The question to determine if this guy has like a superior IQ, he passes with flying colors, but then this question doesn't. And then anyway, they told my mother. My mother was really mad. She kind of asked me. She said, John, what color are bananas? I go, yellow. Well, why did you tell them that? I said, well, if they were so damn dumb, I wasn't going to tell them.
As a 5-year-old.
Yes.
Yes, as a 5-year-old. Okay.
Well, anyway, at this point, the educational people. Listen, you have to remember this is way back in the 70s. Okay, so Asperger's syndrome, they didn't even know what it was.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They were not wanting. They were wanting to send me to some specialized place in the middle of Iowa. I grew up in Iowa, in a little town called Algona, Iowa, where they were going to have like a whole bunch of specialists review me, and basically they were going to do all kinds of a whole. I had to go to this place, and what this was an institution for children that had like problems, like if you were developmental disabilities, retard, or something like that. So basically, they were going to do a whole battery of tests on me to determine if I was qualified to go to kindergarten or not. Mm-hmm. And so I had to go to this thing, and in fact, it was a very frightening thing because basically I was told from the get-go. Basically, my parents had told me from the get-go, okay, you better keep these people happy. You better do good today, because guess what? If you don't do good, guess what? They're going to take you away from us, and they're going to put you in that home, and you're going to be you're going to be in the school with the stupid kids, and you're never going to see us again.
Oh.
Wow.
Yo.
And well, anyway, so it was a scary thing, and so I went to this thing, and all kinds of doctors and psychiatrists, psychologists, and everything. They did all kinds of physiological examinations on me, probes and everything else, trying to figure out if there's problems with me. I had a child psychiatrist talk to me, a psychologist talk to me, learning specialist, and all this stuff. And basically, at the end of the day, the message to my parents basically was, well, we honestly don't know what's wrong with him. He has a problem. He seems to be asocial. We really don't know what's wrong with him. It is our opinion, though. I think that probably the best thing you can do is go ahead and send him to kindergarten. He'll probably fail. I'm going to be honest with you. He told my parents this. He's probably going to fail. I'm going to be fully honest with you. He'll probably fail his first year. He's not going to make it. But it's probably good for him to be around other kids his age. Just go ahead and send him to kindergarten with the idea that he's most likely going to fail. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the start. So basically, I was like, even before I even started school, I was kind of basically expected to fail.
Yeah.
So I went through the first year of kindergarten. I failed just as I said, and after that, I kind of got marked. I went through the lower grades and learned all the and had various issues that's when I had the dyslexia problems that I mentioned earlier. Got a little bit older. And at this point, I was a complete reject of the class, being made fun of left and right, all this stuff, and ridiculed. And I actually got a little bit older, though, and I actually started to excel, believe it or not. I graduated valedictorian in my high school class.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, I mean, at this point, I was doing pretty well, because I finally, after I got over the dyslexia problems, and I got over some of these other issues, I actually started to excel. And I actually went to college on a full board scholarship.
Okay, you said you got over the dyslexia. Was it because you learned how to deal with them, or did it dissipate? When you say that you got over your dyslexia problems,
They sent me to several different specialists in the school.
Yeah.
In fact, that was another issue of mine, just because I was seeing so many different specialists from a young age. I was basically, all the other kids knew me as the special kid that they always had to be taken out of class to go to a PhD level specialist each and every,
but as far as your dyslexia, you said Well, basically, so I just wanted to clarify, did your dyslexia clear up because of better strategies as far as how to deal with it? Or did it dissipate on its own where you no longer have dyslexia, period?
Well, I had specialists that would pull me aside and they
Okay,
would
so
literally work-
it's basically strategy?
Right.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
So
Continue.
I graduated high school, graduated number one in my class, and I went to college, and in college I had some more issues. In my life, everything, one thing about me, I'm a very black and white person. I'm either an is or an isn't, black or white. There's no middle ground with me. You're either an extreme liberal or an extreme conservative. You get the idea.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a very, very 100% either or, black or white person. Everything from my religious to my politics, you get the idea.
Oh, yeah, I'm fully aware. But, yeah, go ahead.
And
Me too.
Yeah.
so I went to college, and that actually caused some problems in college because, well, in college I found out that sometimes that there was middle ground in certain things, and it drove me crazy. Like I got a degree in biology, but like when I was like in biology lab, for example, they were teaching us like bacteria. Okay, the concept of a gram-negative and a gram-positive bacteria strain, and they would teach us the concept. They would say, okay, a gram-negative would accept this diet, and a gram-positive won't. But then all of a sudden, it drove me crazy because the teacher would say, okay, now this particular bacteria though is kind of in the middle. See, it kind of is, and I was like, wait, damn it, it either is or it isn't. You cannot be either is gram-positive or it's not gram-positive. I'm like, and that started to really trouble me throughout the things. Like it would be a major point of frustration when I would run into something where there was middle ground. It's like, and I was the type of person I had very terrible manual dexterity. Okay, so like I was the type of person in chemistry, a class that was very difficult for most people. Okay, you could sit down, put me in the chemistry class, and explain to me an entire reaction, like organic chemistry or whatever. So tell me this is how this works, and give me the test. I'll write down a 6-paragraph explanation. I'll get an A in the test, and I'll tell you exactly why it works this way. This is exactly what's happening, and now put me in a lab and tell me to do this. No, because I had such terrible manual dexterity, like on trying to run a burette or like in the laboratory, or like measure so many milligrams of something to do this. I could never get it right. And so I was the type of person I could explain it to you in theory, explain it to you in paper, and tell you exactly why it does it. And so I ended up getting very frustrated on that. Another thing, when I was in college, I graduated college. I got a 4-year college degree and never took a single note in a class. I can't take notes. So early on, unfortunately, back in those days, they didn't know about this Asperger's syndrome. So in fact, I've talked to some students now, and some students that have been diagnosed with Asperger's, they've actually been able to go to Arizona State University, and they've been able to go to the disabilities department and tell them, hey, I have Asperger's. Okay, no problem. We'll hire you a note taker. No problem. Now with me, see, back in those days, I wasn't even in the DSM, so they didn't even know it existed. So there's no way I could get a special accommodation for a note taker back in those days. So I had to learn very on, when I was going to take a class, try to find professors that teach strictly out of the book, that don't add a lot of stuff to their class, number one. And number two, try to stick to subject matters, or like mathematics or something, kind of like I was saying, where it is 1 + 1 is always going to be 2. There's no middle ground on this. I think actually I have a new theory that 1 + 1 is going to, we should make that equal 3. Always stick with, and that's where I started. That was kind of the issue. I did finally graduate college, and I graduated fairly. I didn't graduate with honors or anything like that, but I did fairly well. I got a degree in biology and chemistry, but then at that point, I kind of had discovered though that wasn't the field for me because of the problems I described earlier. Basically, I was more of a theoretical person. Like if you put in chemistry, you tell me to perform the action in the lab, forget it. I can't do that. And so I couldn't do anything with it. Unfortunately, with biology and chemistry, you practically have to have a PhD or an MD or one of the major Ds in order to do anything. and see, there was no graduate school around that would touch me just because, I mean, there's no way I could do something, you know, I mean, you give me the test and I'll tell you exactly why it works that way, how it works that way, and you give me an A in the test, but put me in the lab, I can't do it. You know, and so I